Hey everybody, welcome to this week's video. This week's Parsha is Pinchas, and we're going to jump right into the discussion at hand. Last year's video of Pinchas was a good one. I encourage you to listen to that also. We talked about 3 types of leadership, and I'll link to it below. But let's jump right in to this week's Parsha. You know, there's an interesting midrash. It's quoted at the beginning of Ein Yaakov, and the midrash reads as follows. The rabbis were discussing what is the most important verse in the entire Torah. If I asked you that question, you might say something like Shema Yisrael, or I am the Lord your God. Who knows? So there were 3 rabbis, 3 opinions. So Rabbi Shimon ben Nanas said, it must be Shema Yisrael. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one God, most important. Shimon ben Nanas said, it is v'ahavta l'reyacha kamecha. Love your neighbor as yourself. The most important thing. And then Shimon ben Pazai, he says, no. It is a verse in the Parsha of Pinchas. Which verse? It says, Es hakeves echad tasa v'aboiker, es hakeves hasheni tasa ben arbayim. 1 lamb in the morning and 1 lamb in the afternoon. Exactly. Wow. This is the most important verse in the entire Torah. Who knew? It's unbelievable. And in fact, they say that it was decided that Shimon ben Pazai is right. That is the most important verse in the entire Torah. What's going on here? Let's unpack this. So the last part of this week's Parsha opens up with the requirement to bring the daily offering. 1 sheep in the morning, 1 sheep in the afternoon. Every single day, this was the community's responsibility. And every single family would give a half shekel. And that was used to buy the animals that were brought in the temple every day. All the communal sacrifices. Now, there were other communal sacrifices which were brought on Shabbos. They were brought on Rosh Chodesh. They were brought on all the holidays, all the festivals. That is the Musaf, the additional sacrifices. In fact, if you go to services tomorrow, we have the first Amidah, known as Shacharis, and that corresponds to the morning sacrifice. Then we have Musaf, which means additional, because there was a special sacrifice brought for Shabbos. And we have Musaf on Rosh Chodesh. We have Musaf on Rosh Hashanah, on Sukkot, on Pesach, because every festival had an additional sacrifice unique to that festival. And that is called Musaf. So there was a morning and afternoon sacrifice, and in its place we do Shacharis and Mincha. Incidentally, Ma'ariv, the evening service, did not have a corresponding sacrifice, even though whatever had not been burned on the altar would continue to burn all night long. There was no unique sacrifice in the evening, and therefore, technically, Ma'ariv, the evening service, is voluntary, although the community has long accepted it to be treated as though it's mandatory, and it is thus mandatory to do the evening service. So what's going on here? Which is the most important? So what Rabbi Shimon ben Pazai is telling us, that the constant daily activity, every morning to bring a sacrifice, every afternoon bring a sacrifice, that is the most important value in Judaism. We could talk about love your neighbor as yourself. And once a year we're going to go and volunteer. Or once a year I'm going to go around to my neighbor and I'm going to help them whatever they need. Or I'm going to go to services in Yom Kippur and I'm going to say, God, you are the most amazing. But it's once a year. Imagine you only helped in the house on your wife's birthday. That's not really a good relationship. Imagine you only called your mom for Mother's Day. Or you only called your dad for Father's Day. That's not good. That's the musaf. That's the extra. The most important thing is the daily. Every single day, every morning, every afternoon. Our Judaism has to be constant and consistent. That is the most important value. To the Shema Yisrael, not once a year, every day. Love your neighbor, not once a year, every day. That's the most important value in Judaism. And it's interesting, we now find ourselves in the period that's colloquially known as the 3 weeks. The 3 weeks is this period from Shiva Asar Tammuz that started on Sunday, the 17th day of Tammuz, when the walls of Jerusalem were breached and many other sad things happened, all the way till Tisha B'Av, which is in 2 Sundays from now, where we recount the 3 Sundays from now. I think August something. Sunday, August 3rd, where the temple was destroyed. And after that point, there's no daily sacrifices. But the rabbis tell us something interesting. We actually gained something by this. What do we gain? Daily prayer. The daily prayers are actually in place of the communal sacrifices that we all paid for. So instead of having the Kohen represent us in that daily worship, we do the daily worship ourselves. Every single day we get to commune with God. Every single day we get to put in a request. What are we hoping for? What do we need? What are we longing for? Every day we get to pray on behalf of the sick. We get to pray on behalf of the community. It's unbelievable. And that is all in place of the daily sacrifices. And friends, that's the lesson from this week's Parsha. A sheep in the morning and a sheep in the afternoon. Every day, let's make it consistent. Be better people, better Jews, better friends, better spouses, parents, children. Make it consistent every single day. Let's make it consistent every single day. With that, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.